everybody, and again in this video, I know you checked out the title, yes, we're going to be giving away all the secrets when it comes to a perfect script for sale by owners, and again, I'm going to be giving you that script at the very end of it, so make sure you stay tuned. Let's dive right into the video. What's up everybody, my name is Henry Eisenstein, and if you don't know who I am, I've been a part of over $400 million worth of real estate transactions, and I'm only 28 years old, and yes, I'm giving away all the secrets for sale by owners in this video. So let's start off with a bang. So the important thing to realize when it comes to for sale by owners is a few key things. The first part of this is they want to pay the least amount of commissions because that's why they want to do it themselves. The why would a for sale by owner list by themselves? Well, they want to save money. And the second part about this is that they really don't think they need you. So let's just talk about what they actually need in order to sell their home. Well, they need a buyer, right? I mean, essentially they need to find some type of person, some individual to buy their property. So if you happen to have the solution, because that's essentially what this is, if you have the solution to their problem, they will work with you. For sale by owners, I look at them as that they're kind of on this, and I hate using the word spectrum, but they're on the spectrum, right? For sale by owners are on this crazy spectrum, but I like to call it the time spectrum because it's just a matter of time until they'll end up working with you. On the very, very first day, when they list it as a for sale by owner, every for sale by owner has a different level on the spectrum of how long they'll go before they'll list with you. So if we kind of take a second here to say, what is the most important thing you can say or basically have as a value to a for sale by owner? Let's think about that out loud. Probably a buyer. So when you're calling these individuals, what do you think you want to talk about? Your buyer, exactly. When you're calling these individuals, you want to get straight to the point. And my favorite scripts, and by the way, again, key thing, if you want the scripts, I have exactly what we're going to be talking about today. It's going to be down in the description down below, so make sure you check out the script book. But my favorite parts about the script is, hey blank, you're always going to assume who it is, right? So sometimes they have their name, sometimes they don't. What I'll always do is, if they don't have their name, just be, hey, pause for a split second. It's Henry with EXP Realty. How you doing today? Doing great. How are you? Well, I'm doing fantastic. I was just calling because I just wanted to confirm you're the owner of 123 Main Street. I see it's here listed for sale. Yes, it is. Okay, fantastic. The reason for my phone call today is blank. Introduce yourself. Say, hey, blank. My name is blank with X company, and the reason for my call is blank. You want to get straight to the point. You want to go more than 10 seconds without being able to do that, right? The hang-up ratio is going to be all contingent on your first 10 seconds. So, and really, I think it's even going to be less than that. So you want to make sure you get straight to the point. So, hey, blank, it's blank with X company, and the reason for I'm reaching out is blank. You say, it's like, I see that the property's listed for sale. I was just kind of curious, is the property still available? Yes, it is. Okay, great, fantastic. And just curious, I see that you have it listed for sale by owner, or if I brought you a buyer, would you be open to paying a commission? Very important key thing here, because if they say no, this is the best objection, because they're gonna say yes or no. If they say yes, fantastic, because that opens the door of now the next part, which is gonna be simply setting an appointment. That, because like I said, okay, fantastic. Actually, what I'd like to do now is be like, hey, no, I just got off the phone with one of my buyers that actually sent me your property, and I'd love to see if I can take a possible tour of the property. I'll come over first just to make sure it's a possible good fit, because I can't waste my client's time. They work crazy hours, so let me go tour the property. What works better for you at afternoon or evening? And you can really just get right in the front door. If you're getting massive value out of this video and you want to work with me personally, make sure you check out the first link in the description down below and schedule your free consultation with myself and my team. Now, if they say no, right? Like if I brought over a buyer, would you pay me a commission? I just want to clarify, are you cooperating with brokers? They say, no, I'm not cooperating with broker. Okay, just out of curiosity though, if I was able to get my client to pay my commission, would you work with a buyer then? I mean, would you work with a broker then? Yeah, no problem. That script is very simple. You'd be like, oh, if they say no, they're not willing to cooperate with brokers. Understood, just curious. So if I have a client who's willing to pay you the price you're looking for, and they're willing to pay me a buyer commission on top of that, would you be totally against possibly me bringing somebody over? No, I guess not. Okay, great, fantastic. So our next step is to just go right to the same thing, simply set an appointment. My clients are crazy busy. And again, you wanna play the game of I have a buyer. It doesn't mean you don't have a buyer. Like again, like a lot of people are like, oh, am I lying that I have a buyer when I really don't? Here's the thing. If you were able to hypothetically negotiate a deal for that property for 50 cents on the dollar, right? Because obviously they have a listing price, but you probably know somebody that you could bring this property to and say, hey, they're really motivated. Let's make an offer for 50 cents on the dollar. So essentially you do have a buyer, right? You probably have an investor you might be working with, and you don't have some investors you're working with, and I would recommend getting one because then you can use them as an excuse, right? You can even just say, I'm calling on behalf of my buyer, Henry. Use me as your buyer. It's okay. I'm looking to buy properties all over the country. So you can just use up my name and say, hey, I have a client named Henry. He's looking to buy a property here in town. Do you mind if I take a look, right? I want to look on behalf of him. He spends a lot of time out of state, but do you mind if I take a look for him? Yeah, no problem. So you set up an appointment because you have a buyer. That's always going to be the best route to take on your intro. If they go like, no, like listen, like I don't want you to take a look. Okay, so just curious. So you want, if I had a buyer who's interested in seeing your property. You don't want us to take a look at your property, right? Like, I'm curious how you expect to sell the property if you don't. Like, you can ask questions. Like, I'm just curious how if they're not willing to tour your property. Like, I'm just curious, how do you plan on selling the property if I have if a buyer's interested in seeing the property? You know what I'm saying? Just ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask. It's okay. Right? You just want to do it with a smile. So another key question to ask in a for sale by owner. Again, it could be on the phone. I recommend always do this in person while you're at the property. Like, okay, just curious. Like, let's just. I'm obviously going to tell them I took a lot of pictures. Or you can ask for permission. You mind if I take some pictures? Maybe take a video. And just curious. And after you do all this, when you're face to face with the for sale by owner, you're like, just curious. Let's just say that my client absolutely loves the house, but maybe it's not in their price range. Based on everything that they maybe think that needs to be done, it's not in their price range, right? Like you say, like, well, based on let's just say as an example, they think it might be too much work, right? Like they love the house, but they feel like it just might be too much work. As an example, I'm gonna send them all the pictures. I don't know what they're gonna say. But let's just say it possibly needs too much work. Would you prefer that I write up an offer anyways, or would you prefer that I just hold off and it's not full price? No, you can submit an offer anyways. Okay, great. First question. Okay, second. How long do you plan on listing the property by yourself before you would consider hiring a professional? Don't say anything else. Just say exactly that. How long are you considering listing the property by yourself before you will look to hire a professional? And let them talk, because obviously the next person who speaks loses, right? So you're letting them talk, like, oh no, I'm just gonna list it forever by myself.
No one ever says that, by the way.
What'll end up happening is that they're gonna end up giving you some type of time frame in which they're gonna continue to list the property by themselves. And what'll end up happening here is that this is a great opportunity for you to say, again, if they say, well, probably another 30 days or so, okay, great. So just to clarify, so if you don't have this property sold in 30 days, you're gonna look to possibly interview a professional. Just out of curiosity, do you happen to already have a realtor picked out just in case you end up listing it with one? This is a very important question. Do you already happen to have a realtor that you already have picked out, that when you do possibly choose to list the property with a broker, you already know you're gonna go with? No, actually I don't. Okay, do you mind if you and I keep in touch? You're like, listen, I'm hoping that this is the right house for my buyer. I think it might be. I'm gonna double check anyways. And I actually do have a few other people I have in mind as well that I'm gonna kick it out to, because I'm gonna work tirelessly to make sure I get your property sold, whether you end up listing with me or not, but I'm gonna do my absolute best to help you get your property sold, all right? For the most money possible. You're blending all that in together, but like, do you see where I'm going with this? Like, I wanna provide value, but I also wanna get really clear on their motivation. Because if they say, yeah, I already have a broker, my brother's a broker, my cousin's a broker, I already know I'm gonna list with someone, just understand, like, you should probably go on to the next sell by owner. Like, you're probably just not gonna get that listing, right? Obviously, unless you have a buyer, which, again, you may or may not have them. So, but again, that's why you wanna get really clear up front so that you're not wasting your time or spinning your wheels while you don't know if this person has, if they have a broker, where you're gonna list with. So another couple key questions to ask a for sale by owner once you're at the appointment, which is, again, you toured the property, took some pictures, and now you wanna start interviewing them, right? You wanna start asking them some questions, just so get a real quick gauge. Just like, listen, sometimes my clients just have some specific questions. You mind if I ask you a few things? So number one is, like, just curious, what's your time frame to end up selling this home? I'm flexible. All right, well, just curious. I mean, if you had a property in a great offer today and they wanted to close in 2 weeks, is that impossible? No, it's not. Or, yeah, I couldn't move in 2 weeks. Oh, so where are you looking to move to, actually? You kind of let them bring it up, and like, oh, okay, I understand. So where are you planning on moving to after you do sell the home? Well, I'm looking to stay local, or I'm looking to downsize, upsize, looking to move to Florida, wherever they're looking to move to, right? The point is that you want to get really, really clear on their motivation and their time frames. So you need to be making sure you ask specific questions like that face to face. It's gonna be very important. That will allow you to stand out, number one, but number two, gauge in their motivation. You're gonna be able to gauge a specific time frame in which they're gonna end up having to sell the property. And if it has not sold in a certain time frame, like if they say, listen, I have a job change, I need to have this property sold in the next 30 days or less. So again, that kind of person, if you follow them in 2 weeks and like, hey, why don't we just list the property for sale? I'll make the commission agreeable, and we'll make sure we get the property sold. And anybody who's already seen the property, if they end up buying it, you don't have to pay me a commission. Really, really simple thing. That's it, guys. Like, you don't have to overcomplicate it, because for sale by owners just want the same result. They just want to possibly sometimes try to do it themselves so they can avoid paying you a commission. But if they can't do it themselves, a lot of them will end up listing. I think it's like 70 or 80% of for sale by owners end up listing their property for sale, right? And just at the end of the day, a lot of them will end up listing with like the first or second broker they end up meeting with. That's why you want to just get in the front door, and that's what it's all about. So another question is just like, oh, I'm just curious. I mean, have you ever sold a house on your own before? Fantastic question. It's a very powerful question. So when you're dealing with someone who's trying to sell their home for sale by owner, if they've never sold a home on their own before, they're probably not going to do it for the first time. I'm just being honest, right? However, if they have been successful in the past, yeah, I've sold all of my homes for sale by owner. I've never needed a broker. In those cases, I want you to understand. If they say like, oh yeah, I've sold plenty of houses before. I've sold, every single one of my houses that I've sold it myself, no problem. If they've said that, just know that like you're probably not going to end up getting the listing, because they're most likely to sell this house. Like, I can appreciate that. I'm just curious, why aren't you a real estate agent? You should get your license, right? Make it a little bit fun. The other part you're gonna flip it into is like, okay, well, kudos to you, that's awesome. I'm gonna see if I can find a buyer as well. But just curious, like, where do you plan on moving to next? And see if you can get the buy side, because at least you can get one side of the transaction. That appointment, setting the appointment it should not be super difficult. because if they're not willing to show you their property, right, like, or if they're not easily able to show their property, to be honest with you, they're probably not super motivated. Most for sale by owners, they should let you in to see the property. Now, if they're being pushy about it, like, oh no, I only want to work with buyers. I also buy a lot of investment properties. You can tell them this. You're like, hey, I also buy investment properties, so I'm also looking for an investment property. I'd like to see the property. Maybe it works for me, maybe it doesn't. I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't want to lie to people.
Well, like, listen, to be honest, like, if you haven't bought an investment property before and you're looking to buy your first investment property, guess what? Like, you can be super truthful. It doesn't really matter. And if you want to lie up front or white lie, I just understand it. When it comes to buying my first investment property, I remember when I was like 23 years old, like, I was calling people and be like, yeah, like, I'm calling people, I'm calling to see if I can buy my next investment property. I had no idea, but guess what? I end up getting, my first one, and then I bought my second, and my third, and my seventh, and my 12th, and you buy more and more properties, right? Like, you gotta start somewhere, right? And again, like, sometimes if you say, I'm here to buy my first investment property, they're gonna be like, oh, why are you buying your first, like, why is this gonna be your first investment property? But you understand? So, like, it's okay. Like, you can white lie. It's not a big freaking deal, right? And if you feel like being transparent, okay, that's fine. The for sale by owner route might be a little difficult, because when you're calling a for sale by owner, and you don't actually have a buyer, and you don't wanna lie up front, I'm just here to be transparent with you guys. If you don't want to, quote, white lie at the beginning about having a buyer, which again, I can be your buyer, right? And I'm looking for an investment property, so that essentially means that you have a buyer. I always just say I have an investor, right? It always ends up being an investor, and I have dozens and dozens, at this point, hundreds of investors that I work with, right? So I always have a buyer possibly for your home. It just might not be at the list price they want. If you don't want to white lie, you can say, like, listen, I'm a local broker in the area. I'd love to know the inventory. I don't have any specific buyers for your home yet, but I'd love to know, the kind of ins and outs of your home. I'd love to tour the property, so that way, if I do have a buyer who calls me up about your property, I'll love to have your property first on my list. How does that sound? Would an afternoon or evening be better for you? And that's it. There you go. Really, really simple way to answer that while you're being transparent. So, but the most important key thing here is about setting the appointment. You have to be face-to-face. You're not going to get a listing over the phone. You're just not going to get that, right? So make sure you're face-to-face. Once you get face-to-face, you can do the rest of the damage or do the rest of the, the quote, closing right at the appointment. Last thing I'm going to say to you guys is the following. Especially in the commercial world when it comes to investment properties, always, always, always make an offer. So if it's a for sale by owner property, I always just like to throw an offer at them. So like, I actually spoke to my client. They're looking to come in at X price, which by the way, I work with a lot of investors, so I get an offer 100% of the time on all of the investment properties. If you're in the residential world and you see it for sale by owner as an example, a big thing you can also do is like, look, just send them an offer. Like, hey, and speak to an investor. What would you make an offer on this property at? What price would make sense to you? Well, I would never pay retail. I understand that. Make me an offer. What offer can I present? And you can just have an offer presented. Because what like agents will do, and I'm not telling you to do this 100% of the time, especially if it's a super low ball, but I am saying that if it's like, kind of an older home or it's an estate sale, because there's some reasons why those types of properties get listed for sale by owner. Again, if the property needs a lot of work, if it's an estate sale, if it, it looks like it's very, very, very dated, they're not expecting to get a crazy amount of money, and you can send it to an investor like, hey, this is for sale by owner. I met with them. They just want an offer of some sort, right? Give me an offer. What would you offer on this property, right? And like, guess what? They'll present an offer. Maybe you get a deal, maybe you don't, and that's okay, right? You can even say, at what price would you pay me a 4% commission? At what price would you pay me a 6% commission to the seller, right? Because they're only offering, maybe they're only offering 2%. Like, okay, well, at what price would you be willing to pay me 6%? Obviously, you're going to do this after you present the offer, because if they're listed for $500,000, you don't want them to tell you $530 if the property's only worth $350. What you're going to do is just list it at $500. Your investor's willing to pay $350. You'll say in the contract, you'll pay me a 4%, 5%, 6% commission, whatever it is. Like, that commission sounds really high. I understand totally. At what price would you like me to go back to and would include you being able to pay me that kind of money? At what price would you pay me a 6% commission? Well, I wouldn't take $350. I understand that. At what price would you pay me 6%? At $425. $425, I'd feel comfortable. Okay, great. Go to your investor and offer, tell them it's $425. You understand? Like, that's how you can simply, make these things work, where you can get paid a great commission and make deals happen off market with for sale by owners. So another key point is going to be all about follow-up. So yes, you're going to be cold calling and doing a lot of outbound, but understand that if you're not going to be following up with these leads, you're going to struggle when it comes to your income, because obviously you're not going to be setting an appointment with every single person or every single lead that you speak with over the phone on your initial call. When you're doing all the follow-up, right? When you're doing all the follow-up, it's going to be very, very important to realize that follow-up is going to really end up being the driver for your income, driver for all the appointments, right? So most of my appointments these days are not just off of the initial call. It's off of all of the follow-up that I'm doing with those leads that I generated the day before, the week before, the month before, right? That's where the appointments are coming from, because you're constantly keeping in touch and they're finally ready to go. Now it's time to set the appointment. So do your follow-up. Put aside time to do follow-up, because doing your outbound lead gen, that initial call, crucial, very important. However, if you're not gonna do your follow-up, you're just basically generating a bunch of leads for nothing. Make sure you realize that a large percentage of your income, a large percentage of the appointments you set are gonna come from follow-up, not just your outbounding when it comes to cold calling. Anyways, guys, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And make sure, again, if you have any questions, make sure you put it in the comment section down below. We answer every single question out there. So on that, guys, I appreciate you so very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.